When the scandal started, I had noticed a lot of social media with the white van syndrome. The white van syndrome being where everybody on the reservation was seeing white vans, and they were saying, watch your children, watch your children. And at that time, I was working for Drumbeat Indian Arts, and I was seeing a lot of vans caravanning outside the Phoenix Indian Hospital. And I wondered, what are those white vans? A lot of these recruiters are owners. Some can be owners of the homes that come out and recruit. And we've seen that. We've seen that in the parks where they're literally driving these nice vehicles coming out and get on this plan, and they target the vulnerable people. They target them first, and then you'll see a van come up and pick them up. Yat she Reva Stewart and she Nashasha Shloam Pataki Bashichin Kayani Dashiche To Higlini Dashanel. Hi, my name is Reva Stewart. I am of the Bear Clan for the Navajo Nation. The fraud initially started in 2019 when I've been doing my research. 2019, it was reported that at that time it was $23 million, and they were targeting our Native people under the American Indian Health Plan. From that point on, there was not, it was not stopped or anything. To date, it could be up to $2.8 billion, because to run a home or a facility, whether it's an investor in a motel, an investor in these homes, they were billing for every person in the amount of $1,800 per person per day under the fee schedule, which could add up to other fees, like if you add fees for mental health. There's little fees that you can have added to this bill that the IOPs were billing. So you get a biller through the intensive outpatient program, and then they pay these homes. So every home that had like 13 people, that they were told, well, I'll give you $1,000 for each person. That's $13,000 a day. These fraudsters just took millions and millions of dollars, and to be where we're at today, roughly $2.8 billion. And only, I believe it was $151 million that was retrieved from the government that they got back with a slap on the wrist. When you have a family member that was brought down here in regards to the scheme, not knowing that she went missing, and I hadn't seen my cousin in over 30 years, to be told that she's now missing. She may be down there. We don't know why. So prior to that, I was taking information on all this social media, our missing people, because when she was brought down here, they reported her missing. And I'm also a huge advocate for the MMIW at that time, because we had family members that would come in on a daily to check if their posters were still up in the store for missing and murdered Indigenous women. I went from a 3x5 board, cork board of missing posters, to 4x8 boards outside, plywood boards outside of missing Indigenous people. We were missing quite a few women at the time, and we were putting missing posters up, and it turned into more missing men. With all my reports that I have taken from our Native relatives that were in these homes, they were allowed to drink, they were allowed to do drugs, they were introduced to drugs, they were allowed to come and go as they pleased. They were fighting in these homes. They were just allowed to do whatever they wanted as long as they came back into these homes. We've had so many of our Native relatives that have passed away in these homes, whether it's by stabbing, whether it's by overdose in these homes. And these homes are, as I see it, a fly-by-night home where they can get up, pack up and leave, send you to another home and start all over. And I want everyone to see that to this date, it's still happening, because just last week we were seeing the deaths rise again. This fraud has impacted myself as a Native person, as a mother, as a grandmother, as an auntie, extremely hard because of the deaths. As Native people, we're not supposed to be chasing death, but I'm out there helping families get the answers they need for the deaths. Look for the addresses of where their loved ones were found in these homes, because when you have someone who passes away in a home, they don't want to give that address up. They don't want to be flagged, but I will go out of my way to look for that. I will go as far as going to the examiner to see if they're there, if they've had to DNA tested. So this has impacted me a lot, and it does put a lot on your shoulders, because I'm not doing this because I want to. I'm doing this because I have to, and because I have a lot of compassion for my people, and I care a lot about my people. And I've always just said that to the government and anybody who asks, is that all I ever did was just ask for help. The responsibility of moving and asking for help has been extremely hard, because sometimes you feel like no one is listening. And when you ask for a village and you get a village of people who help and are there behind you no matter what, no matter how hard it gets and how hard you fight, there's always a village of people who are back there behind you, who push you, who say, Reva, you've got this, you can keep moving forward. And they always say, take a mental health day, but you're not given that, because you want to be able to help people find their loved ones so they don't have to worry about another death. I'm sorry, I gotta take a break. The nonprofit I started is called Turtle Island Women Warriors, and we started it a year ago. And the reason why we started it was because of stolen people, stolen benefits, which was brought into light in regards to the fraudulent scheme that started with Access. To date, we continue to go out and help people. We do our outreach on a weekly basis. We go out and hand out care packages, hygiene kits, snacks, and sometimes first aid kits. So as our group, we get together and we make our own care packages and make sure they're okay. And we ask if they need to call home. We let them use our phones so they can call home, let their families know that they're okay, they're still here. And when they decide to go home, we'll let the families know, are you ready to come down and get your family? Because to date, we have no funding for transportation. And I know for a fact that the state of Arizona doesn't offer transportation. Neither does the 22 tribes. They don't have transportation. We have a lot of the entities here in the valley reached out to us for transportation. So sometimes we'll utilize our own vehicles to help them get home. But yeah, as a group, we go out and help the best way we know how. Access and the state and the Department of Health Services, I believe, allowed this to happen because as a Native person, we really didn't matter. You know, I've always said that we felt it was genocide at a different level because we're not that important. They may say otherwise, but so much oversight on it being reported back in 2019 that this was happening then. We're now in 2025 and it's still happening. Access is still being named by these fraudulent homes that are bringing our people into this day, saying that we cannot feed you until access is approved. So when you have that oversight from Access, the state, AZDHS, what are they doing? They're slapping you on the wrist with probation. I know that $2.5 billion was taken and only 5% was returned. So how do you justify that? How do you justify someone's life? How are you going to bring back this life? How are you going to fix this? We've had one relative, it was 118 degrees out, and he was done. He was lying flat face in the grass, and he highlights my story, resonates with everything that I see in this, is because his sister had reached out to me the day before, looking for her brother, crying, we don't know where he's at. To the next day of us doing outreach and seeing him and speaking to him, and he was done. He was done. He didn't know what to do. To us getting him home, family meeting him and retelling him his, that same day was, I just spoke to your sister yesterday. And putting him on the phone and hear them crying and how much they realize that they love each other, and no matter the addiction to whether it's alcohol or drugs, that they're still loved. For his family to meet me halfway to get him home, and now knowing that he is back to being productive. He's got 2 jobs. He's still fighting his demons, but he's also taking care of his parents, and he's home. So that's, you have success stories, but you have ones that have to figure out, how am I going to get my child home from being stabbed in a facility, a so-called flop home? How do you get them home? Because they're on the reservations. They don't have that means of transportation, the means of money to get them home. So they start reaching out. How can we get them home? So we do a lot of helping that way, and we're working on that now. The fight for justice and keeping it out in the media has always been a fight, because every day I've thought, how do I keep this out there? How do I keep this voice going when no one is listening? I believe if we continue to use social media, to use storytelling of what our people are going through, our Native relatives are going through, that we can continue to keep this out there. And so with every story, with every social media, whether it's myself telling a story on social media, that I will keep it out there until justice is served. I want accountability for every single person, not personally to me and say, Reva, I'm sorry. I want them to go to each family and acknowledge them. Take that time to actually see the family, that was affected by this. Justice for not having these fly-by homes just shut down and open up again and take advantage of our people, and not get a slap on the wrist, not giving them probation for what they did, and collect a certain amount of money back, but to actually hold them accountable for each and every death that they caused. And because I know the fact that spiritually, it's always going to bother them. It's always going to bother them, because if they allowed this to happen, they have death on their hands, and that's why we wear this red hand. I see more of our Native people stepping up and wanting to help, and the fact that everything that's happening today, because of our voices and our people standing up and saying, we're done, we're not going to do this anymore, we're going to hold you accountable for everything that's happened. You will not silence us. You will not threaten me by slashing all my tires. You will not threaten me by showing up in the middle of the night trying to scare me. You will not do that. So I will not be silent anymore, and neither will our people. And with the village that's growing behind me, we're going to continue to use our voice. As a Native person, a Native relative to all of this fraud that's happened, I would want my legacy as Reva Stewart for people to look and see my name and say she fought for her people, not just to put herself on social media, not, put herself out there as a person, but for her people. I would want people to, if my name was to come up, or our group, Turtle Island Women Warriors, was to come up, we fought for justice, and we fought for every single person that was hurt, and we will continue to fight. She a Reva Stewart and she na shashin shlo batati bashishin kia ani dashiche toa heglini dashina. My name is Reva Stewart. I am of the Bear Clan, and I am from the Navajo Nation in New Mexico, and this is my story.